So there's a gentleman that apparently on record holds the world's highest IQ. Now, before you get into the comments about IQ, I don't think IQ is necessarily a one-to-one correlation to anything significant like, will you be successful? Can you be a good father? Can you be a good disciple of Jesus? I don't think IQ is that, but it is a metric that many people use. So this gentleman's name is Young Hoon Kim, who apparently has the world's highest IQ at 276.
Whoa.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to this dude. And that's a really high IQ. 276. I think like,
isn't it like 150 like incredible?
I think Einstein's like in the high hundreds. Yeah, 160. So Einstein was like 160. Okay.
What?
This dude is confirmed. This is a world record. Okay. And he is CEO, of course, of an AI company.
Yeah.
276. That's crazy.
That's incredibly high.
Yeah. For the record, the average IQ is around 100 to 105. It's like somewhere in that ballpark, right? And
really?
Yes. And some people, if you're above like 110, you're considered above average. 115 is above average.
Have you ever taken your
smart.
IQ?
I have.
I haven't.
You haven't?
I'm kind of scared.
Oh, I don't think it's also always an indicator of anything, because IQ can also be it's just one measurement. It's not, it doesn't measure for emotional intelligence or social skills or people skills. It doesn't measure for grit. It doesn't measure for perseverance. It doesn't measure for any of those
fact,
things.
Baby.
It's just,
come on.
Yeah, it's a very specific type of intelligence. Anyway.
160 IQ, more like how hard did you push at 160 heart rate, you know?
Mine's wasn't mad high. Mine's was, I think, 110.
That's great though.
Monette's was 115. My wife's was 115. Yeah,
she's
so
a genius.
Hers was higher than mine.
That's why she got you doing all the work.
Pretty much. And which is funny because, side note, I don't even know if we should leave this in, but the idea like race realism always points to like IQ, but like my wife is black and has a higher IQ than me. You know what I mean? Now, I do think that there's something towards being a Christian raising your IQ.
Really?
I think something's there. I don't know. I'm not saying like, Girls Gone Bible actually said it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Can God raise people's IQ? That's an interesting idea. I think so. I couldn't read until like 8th grade.
Oh, so you're going like next level.
I think, yes, I think God can make you more intelligent.
I think so. Do you think there's something with like the ability to surrender intellect to a higher power, aka God, Jesus of the Bible, allows you to hit new levels? It's like
potentially.
It's like
I don't know how it works.
It's like some people that are obsessed with money.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes can have a really hard time making money.
Mm-hmm.
But then when someone can be like, all right, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to be more open-handed. Sometimes there's it's easier to make this money decisions or be financially smart.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like that with intellect.
Maybe. It could be. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I don't know. People think it's more biology. I don't think so. I think, IQ can definitely be influenced by environmental factors. Neither here nor there.
Yep.
The point that I want to make is this gentleman, Young Hoon Kim, has the world's highest IQ holder and dropped a bombshell on everybody.
That's pretty crazy.
He said, as the world's highest IQ regular, I love the fact that he just reminds everybody, I believe that Jesus Christ is God, the way and the truth and the life.
Come on, somebody.
That's pretty amazing.
That's really amazing. Why did though? Right after I read that, I had a skeptical feeling. Is that the internet?
Maybe.
What happens? Like you see too many pastors fall, and then you're like, this man probably cheated on his IQ test. You know what I'm saying? like I'm like,
you're just scarred.
I'm just scarred.
You're scarred from the bad news we cover.
No, that's great. I think there's probably something to that. I mean, IQ may not be the most accurate metric, as we've all discussed.
Yes,
but at the same time, there is something even outside of the IQ to very intellectual people believing in God of the Bible as well.
Yeah,
and that's not new.
Yeah. And again, I don't think that this is an end all be all of intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's levels to different types of intelligence. Like here, I'll give you an example. Here's a very practical example. If someone is, let's just say below average IQ, let's just say 100, but they have great social skills.
Yep.
They have grit, and they're teachable. They know that they don't know very much.
Yeah. That's the big one.
right?
Yeah.
They know they don't know very much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have someone with 160 IQ, but they have awful social skills. They're prideful. They're arrogant. They're not teachable. Who do you think is going to go further? Who do you think is going to help more people? Who do you think is going to add more value?
Yeah.
Right?
No, 100%. Plus, the person with like 100 IQ is probably more impressed by other people's work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very likable trait.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To be like, whoa, Ruslan, that was crazy what you just did. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And if you operate through life appreciating other people's work, but you're just smart enough to kind of squeeze it out, and you got enough grit, and you got enough of those people skills. I think you have a great point. Someone's going further there. I also think it's a little bit of that, like the guy that knows he isn't the smartest sometimes knows that he needs to outsource to people or get other people in his corner to actually get further along.
Mm-hmm.
And so you end up getting someone that's a bit more of a team player.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the person that is hyper intellectual is like, I could do this all myself if I wanted to.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not doing anything because you want to do it all yourself.
Yeah. There's an interesting Bible passage in Acts 14 while the apostles are experiencing persecution and all this crazy stuff, right? Peter and John before the Sanhedrin. And by the way, this is Logos. I love Logos. I use Logos every day. It is a behemoth of a Bible software. And you'll see me use it a little bit here. But in Acts 4, it says, the priest and the captain of the temple guard and the Sadducees came up to Peter and John while they were speaking to the people. They were greatly disturbed because the apostles were teaching the people, proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection of the dead. They seized Peter and John because it was evening. They put them in jail until the next day. But many who heard the message believed. So the number of men grew and believed to about 5,000. The next day, the rulers, the elders, and the teachers of the law met in Jerusalem. Annas, the high priest, was there, and so were Cephas, John Alexander, and others of the high priest family. They had Peter and John brought before them and began to question them by what power or what name did you do this? Then Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said to them, rulers and elders of the people, if we are being called to account today for an act of kindness shown to a man who was lame and are being asked how he was healed, then now this, you and all the people of Israel, it is the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified, but whom God raised from the dead, that this man stands before you healed. So there's a boldness that Peter is exhibiting. Mm-hmm. But what people forget is that the apostles were like normal dudes. Like these were like blue collar guys. Peter was a fisherman, right? So there's a if we're going to talk about God supernaturally doing something in the person, mm-hmm. right? It would seem like Peter is really becoming more, not just bold, but smart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's
verse 11.
Wow.
He says, Jesus is the stone you builders rejected, which has become the cornerstone. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven and given by mankind, by which we must be saved. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. Right? Now, I think for us, how many of us are unschooled and ordinary, right?
Yeah.
But when you're with Jesus, it leads other people to recognize it. So let's go and
preach.
Let's go into our Bible software. Let's look at this word unschooled, which again, guys, not sure if you know, Logos is hooking all you guys up with a free 60-day trial.
Goodness gracious.
We hit that. Takes us to the Greek, which is crazy what this word actually means.
Agrammatos.
Agrammatos. Uneducated.
Illiterate.
Whoa. So these are not smart dudes, right? And you have these.
Who's the greatest among these? He's like, oh, good Lord.
Let's look at the word ordinary, right? We hit this word ordinary, hit study.
Idiotes.
Whoa.
Is that the
idiotes?
Is that the origin for the word idiots?
Yeah.
Ordinary? That's actually kind of
unskilled, which could mean illiterate.
Idiots. Unskilled idiots. Goodness. Yeah. Outsider, unskilled, private person.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, you guys you can get the free 60-day trial, logos.com/Ruslan, or hit the pin comment and get to use all these things. Their software on their phone and tablets, in my opinion, just as good, if not better than this. But this idea that like when you've been with God, when you've been with Jesus, that he takes people that are unskilled, illiterate, idiotes, and gives them a boldness that is astonished. They were astonished. And take note that these men had been with Jesus, right? I mean, how often are we not allowing the overflow of our time with Jesus, our quiet time with Jesus, our devotional with Jesus to flow out and impact people?
Come on.
Right? And how often are we, right? The idea of like humility, right? Like humility is a bit of a cliche quote. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking about yourself less.
Yep.
Right? And so how often are we actually just thinking less of ourselves? We're just like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, I'm this wicked sinner and like, oh, we're a wretched man. And it's like, yeah, but you got to get to Romans 8:1. There's no condemnation in those in Christ Jesus. You got to get to Romans 8:28, which is all things work for good for those who love God and call according to his purposes, right? There's so much on the other side of being transformed, renewed with God. And I think a lot of that comes from the quiet place. And I wonder how many of us just don't want that. Like we're afraid of that. We're scared of that. We're dealing with cognitive dissonance. We're unsure. It's really sad if you really think about it.
Yeah,
you know, it's
absolutely.
really sad. So
I think we can start a Christian spinoff of Andrew Schultz's Charlemagne channel called Illiterate Idiots.
I like that. Or what we could do
What's even better
is if you don't want to be an idiot,
yeah,
you could pick up the Occupy Till I Come 60-day devotional and jumpstart some of this time getting closer, reading through the scriptures, 60-day entries, 35 days in the Old Testament, 25 days in the New Testament, with custom journal prompts every single day. Like these aren't just generic ones. There's a reading, and then you turn a page, and there's a custom journal prompt about the reading with a prayer request section so you could document your prayers.
Come on.
And then there's notes on the back designed by Josh Nadeau that when we spend time with Jesus, we are to occupy until he comes. So you can pick that up at blessgod.shop. The Father's Day pricing is still available on this.
Hello.
All right.